Applications of electrolysis. Objectives. Three major applications of electrolysis are electroplating, purification of metals, and electromanufacturing of some elements and compounds. Electroplating. It is an important application of electrolysis. Process of depositing a thin layer of one metal over the other with the help of an electric current is called electroplating. Electroplating is done mainly to achieve protection and decoration. Electroplating to achieve protection. Oxygen and moisture present in air tend to react with iron objects, forming rust. If these iron objects are coated with nickel, then oxygen and moisture will not be able to react with iron and rusting could be prevented. Let us see the procedure of electroplating iron rod with nickel in detail. Aqueous solution of nickel sulfate is taken in an electrolytic vessel as an electrolyte. The iron rod to be electroplated is dipped into nickel sulfate and then connected to negative terminal of a battery. This means iron rod to be electroplated acts as a cathode. Another rod made of nickel is also dipped into electrolyte and connected to positive terminal of the battery. This pure nickel rod acts as an anode. Electric current passes from positive terminal of the battery to cathode and reaches the electrolytic solution of nickel sulfate. Nickel sulfate splits into nickel ions Ni2+ and sulfate ions SO4 2-. Sulfate ions, being negatively charged, move towards the anode, which is a pure nickel metal rod. Here, nickel atom from anode loses 2 electrons to give nickel ion. This nickel ion combines with sulfate ion to form nickel sulfate, which enters the electrolytic solution. The 2 electrons released from nickel atom travel through the external circuit and reach the cathode. At the same time, nickel ions move towards cathode, which is the iron rod to be electroplated. These ions accept the electrons from the cathode to become nickel atoms and get deposited on it. Thus, nickel from the electrolyte gets deposited on the iron rod, while an equivalent amount of nickel from the anode replaces it. Anode dissolves in the solution and this keeps the concentration of nickel sulfate unchanged. The cathode grows in size due to the deposition of pure nickel on it. Thus, iron rod gets electroplated with nickel. Let us sum up the process of electroplating. Nickel sulfate splits into nickel ions and sulfate ions. Sulfate ions remove nickel from anode to form nickel sulfate, and this goes into the solution, while nickel ions get deposited on the cathode. Newly formed nickel sulfate undergoes reionization, again forming nickel ions and sulfate ions. The cycle thus continues. Electroplating for decoration. Metals like copper can be electroplated with silver or gold to make them more attractive.